गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवते धीनामवित्र्यवतो गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ सत्यमेष्टा चत्वारिगुं सत्यमे वाजश्च प्रसवश्च पिजश्च क्रतुश्च शुभश्च मूर्धा च व्यश्नियश्च यायनश्चान्त्यश्च भौवनश्च भुवनश्चाधिपतिश्च इडा देवहोर्मनुर्यज्ञनीर्बृहस्पतिरुक्था मदानिशगुं श्रीषद्विश्वे देवासो ओक्तवाचः पृथिवीमा धर्मामाहिगुं शीर् मधुमनिष्ये मधुजनिष्ये मधुवक्ष्यामि मधुवदिष्यामि मधुमतीन् देवेभ्यो वाचमुध्यासगुं शुश्रूष्येण्याम् मनुष्येभ्यस्तम्मा देवा अवन्तु शोभायै पितरो नुमदन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेण मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। Om Shri Sairam. Our most humble pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Welcome all elders or Sai brothers and sisters, and a warm welcome to our speaker for today, Siddharth Bhatt. The topic that Siddharth ji has chosen today is a wonderful topic, surrender. Swami in one of his interviews told to students, God does not want anything from you, sir. To one student, he addressed it as sir. At every point in time, if you remind yourself that whatever is happening is good for me, then you have surrendered to me. And in the same context, he used the analogy of clutches and said, in life, there are 4 gears: happiness, sorrow, happiness, sorrow. Just as in a car, our lives continue whether we are in happiness or sorrow. But the problem arises when you shift the gears and then the clutch is useful. Thus, for life also, there's a clutch. And the clutch for life is a thought that the one who is equanimous in happiness, sorrow, profit and loss Victory, defeat is the one who has totally surrendered. What a profound, words from Bhagawan Shri Sai Baba. Just a brief introduction about Brother Siddharth. Though all of us know about Siddharth because he has hosted so many Samarpan programs. He is a wonderful orator, wonderful speaker, a very blessed student of Swami with beautiful experiences. But it's my bounden duty to introduce him today. Siddharth was born in a Sai family as a fourth generation Sai devotee. In a family who has been in Sai's fold since 50 years plus. He's in Swami's fold since 1966. After completing Bal Vikas up to Group 2 in Mumbai, he studied at Bhagwan's Lotus feet for 7 years during the period 1995 to 2002. With 2 years at Swami's school at Prashanti Nilayam, followed by 3 years of BCom honors at Brindavan, and final 2 years management course at Prashanti Nilayam. One facet of him, he has played tabla during Prashanti Mandir bhajans and was blessed to speak in Kulwant Hall in the Divine Presence on few occasions. He is a very active member of Mumbai Samarpan team at Dharmakshetra, offline sessions as well as online sessions. And he has, almost hosted more than around 120 sessions, both offline and online till date. And also he is blessed to anchor study circles for youth and devotees in Mumbai Samitis. A warm welcome to you, dear Siddharth. And I would not come between you and all the devotees here. I'll not take much of time. Over to you. Praying to Swami that he envelops us in his grace and love. Sairam.
Loving Sairams and a wonderful evening to each one of you. Let us offer loving salutations to our beloved Swami. And today being the Friendship Day, probably he's the best friend that we can think of. For the not just for the human beings, for the entire creation. So let's offer our pranams to him and also offer him our gratitude for giving us this rare opportunity to think about him, his message, and his guidance on this path of surrender. One more point which I would like to mention before we get into the topic. I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm just here because somebody needs to speak. So honestly, it is Bhagawan who has been guiding this entire session, and he has shared some of the important areas which we can discuss today on this important path. Because once we achieve surrender, we would have achieved everything in life, because that's an ultimate thing. So that's one thing. Second is I've been given, I think, 1.5 hours till 8 p.m. I will, once I get into the state of flow, there is a possibility I may slip on the time, but I'll do my best to keep a watch. But I would request uncle to just either show a tea or ring a bell or something where you say just stop. But give me 5 minutes before you do that so that I can stop in a positive way and not abruptly.
I would not come in your way and break the flow. Please let it flow. Sairam.
Sure. So once again, a loving salutations to our beloved Swami and a wonderful evening to everyone. We are again meeting at a time probably just entering a very, very auspicious period. While most of us are already celebrating Shravan month. Today is, I think, the 10th day of the Shravan month. But the kind of festivals that we are likely to see in next 15, 20, 25 days is amazing. So right from, in fact, it's not a celebration, but I think on Tuesday we are having Muharram. Muharram is a day of mourning, but an important aspect of Islam religion about Muharram is contemplation and rumination and reflection, as they call it. So it's an opportunity to reflect about our life, about our happenings in life, about the blessings of life that Bhagawan has blessed us with. So I would portray Muharram as that opportunity. So that's one festival, you can say, which is coming up on Tuesday. That is on 9th, day after tomorrow. Followed by Rakhi or Raksha Bandhan, that is on 11th. Then we are having the 75th Independence Day. Probably all of us are in two mode of putting the flag as a DP on a WhatsApp, and that's rightly so. So that's the 75th year of our independence, which is coming up, 75th Independence Day, which is coming up. And that is followed by Krishna Janmastami on 19th. So, that's obviously one of the most closest to our hearts. People who, stay overnight and have bhajans, and, you actually play with the little Krishna who's born at 12 midnight. And that's a Janmastami festival, which is coming on Friday. So you got Saturday, Sunday holiday. You can celebrate the birthday of Lord Krishna for 3 days. And then you have got Jain religion, which is going to celebrate Paryushan for 7 days. Paryushan again is a very auspicious festival for Jains, and not just Jains. Jain is a religion, but the philosophy behind Paryushan is about fasting, about sense control, about self-introspection, which they call it pratikraman. That's a word used by them. But these are the principles which are common to all religions. So again, it's an opportunity. I think every festival is an opportunity to think about God. So Paryushan is that opportunity of fasting, sense control, self-introspection, and rumination again. So that's a festival which begins, post Janmastami, and it culminates into Samvatsari for Jains, and for most of us who are following Sanatan Dharma, it is Ganesh Chaturthi on 31st. So that's a day when Lord Ganesha is born. At the same time, Jains celebrate Samvatsari, which is the day of reflection and self-introspection. And that's a this is about August, and there are many festivals, as all of us know, will continue after this also with Navratri, and then we have got Dashera, and obviously Diwali, and then so on and so forth. But in short, in next 20-25 days, or 23 days to be precise, today being 7th, we got so many important days to think about God. That's the main motive why I'm narrating or listing out the festivals, that these are opportunity to think about God in different ways, which is there for us. And that's why probably we're meeting at a wonderful time, and to discuss on this important topic for all of us. And finally, this morning I woke up with a WhatsApp message, people wishing happy Friendship Day, and I was honestly not aware. So I added that also in the list. And most importantly, Friendship Day, as Swami also says, the best friend to have is God. So again, another opportunity to think about God. So there are so many, every day something or other that is happening nice over the next 23 days. And I think that should, set the ball rolling for all of us to get on this beautiful, very, very beautiful nectarine path of divinity. It's not that we are not, but this is an opportunity to speed up, on the runway which the aircraft has already reached. So these are some of the, festivals which are coming up, and that's why we are, meeting at the beginning of a very auspicious season. Before I get into the topic, and there are 7 steps. Okay, I just prayed to Swami. I said, Swami, what do you want us to think about today? And he just, inspired to write 7 steps of surrender. 7th step is surrender. But before we get into that, one nice story which touched my heart, and I thought, let me share with all of you. Probably that will set the context. I hope I'm audible and visible comfortably to everybody, right? Yeah, thank you. So the story goes that there was a mother and a child. Okay, mother and the child, they were going in a market, and child must be maybe 3 years or 4 years or so, and the mother obviously was main person who's buying the vegetables and everything in the market. So after buying all the vegetables and everything, they came to a store, a store which had the big jars of the Melody coffee or toffee bars, and some some kind of small toffees or the lollipops and all that, which children are very excited about. So there are big jars which were kept right up front, and the mother was obviously negotiating with the shopkeeper and whatever she wanted to purchase. But this tiny tot of 3 to 4 years, he was constantly watching those jars. And then his attention got arrested on one of the jars. Probably he liked that thing very much. And shopkeeper noticed this. So shopkeeper saw it and probably felt, the small child and probably likes it. So he just opened the jar and showed it to him. And I told him, take how much ever you want. So the child hesitated. He just looked at the shopkeeper, looked at the jar, didn't do anything. Second time, the shopkeeper said, take whatever, how much ever you want. Still, this tiny tot didn't put his hand or didn't look at him or didn't do anything on it. Third time he asked. And despite that, the repetition of not doing anything, The shopkeeper finally decided that let me only give him. So what he did, he put his own hand in the jar and then gave him, the toffees, whatever he wanted. And obviously the hand of the shopkeeper was much bigger than the tiny tot. So tiny tot had to actually put two hands together to receive what he was being given. And despite that, it started overflowing from his hand. So after all that thing happened, obviously the mother helped the child to lift all the toffees which got, outside his hand. And then they walked away. So they walked away, and then once they reached home, the mother was curious to know that why this child did not respond despite shopkeeper kind of asking the child to pick up. Okay, so the child heard her out and she said, Mom, if I have to put my hand, I may get, looking at my size of the hand, maybe 2, 3, 4 toffees. But if the shopkeeper has to do the same, which actually did, I got at least 15, 20 of them. And it was beyond my 2 hands. It was flowing out of it. So what is the moral of this story is, we may ask something from God, which may be 2 or 3 toffees that we may get. But when God puts his hand and says, take this, my child, you may get 3, 4, 5, 10 times. We don't know how many X times we may get. So, I mean, the sum and substance of this story is, if we leave it to God, as Srinivasan uncle said in the beginning, in the introduction, that if we leave it to God, you never know, he wants to give us 10 times, but we have been asking 1x, he give me 10%, but we feel that 10% is 100%, whereas he wants us to get 100% of it. So it is always nice, and it is prudent to leave it to Swami or leave it to God, in whichever form we worship him. Let him do what he wants us to, because his master plan may have a lot of good things, and we are asking maybe 10% of it, and it may turn out to be a foolish decision. But nevertheless, the God is very, very kind, and he ensures that he gives what he wants to give, end of the day. And sometimes we get angry on him saying that, I asked so many things, but you didn't give, you gave me that. But eventually we come to know that what he gave was probably the best. We wouldn't have even dreamt in our life that what he gave was the best, but that is what it turns out to be. If you just go back to our respective lives, the life is a book, as Swami says, and pick up those pages of the past. There are many incidents where we were not happy initially when we asked God, but when God gave us something, eventually, subsequently, in hindsight, we realized that was the best thing that would have happened. And that is where the shopkeeper is God, and we are the tiny tot who are all the time asking or looking at things. This is attractive, that is attractive. The jars basically are different aspects of life, and shopkeeper is none other than God himself. He says, take what you want. But when we say, God, you decide, you do what you want to give. And eventually when he puts his hand, obviously we get many more times. So that's how the topic is. I just recollected this incident, this story, which I personally liked it. And whenever I am little down, I remember this story and said, no, let the shopkeeper decide. Let the tiny tot not pick any toffee, which, we feel we are right, but ultimately he knows best. So that is how the story is. Yeah, before I again now get into the 7 aspects, I would also like to acknowledge and thank Srinivasan uncle and all the organizing team members for giving this opportunity, because all the while, once you said that you have to speak today, the journey for me began from that day, and I've been constantly thinking about Swami on these aspects. So I am the bigger beneficiary than any of you, because today you come with a fresh mind to listen for 1.5 hours, but I have been listening to his stories internally for last almost 15-20 days. So a special thanks to Srinivasan uncle and all the organizers who gave this opportunity to think about Swami. Okay, so moving on, 7 steps to surrender. Okay, that's the broad. We will take one after another, and how the journey has been personally to me in my life, and how Bhagawan's role has been to reach that aspect of surrender. But there is a very famous saying of Swami. All of us would have read 100 times. Take 1 step towards me, and I'll take 10. Very common, right? All of us have heard. Now the problem with us is we add 2 more zeros. Take 1 step towards me, and Swami says take 100 or takes 1,000. The problem is we have added so many zeros and made Swami's work so heavy that we are still not taking that 1 step. Because I've seen a same modified version, take 1 step, I'll take 100, take 1 step, I'll take 1,000. But actually what Swami said, take 1 step and I'll take 10 towards you. Okay, so that's the original message which Swami gave, and we kept adding zeros to it. But the most important fact for us to ruminate today is, what is that first step? Okay, and this question we have asked several times in our study circles, as even Uncle said in the beginning that so many study circles we are part of. So we keep asking this question and various answers we got. In fact, we got the answer saying the surrender is the first step. Actually, that's the last thing to happen. But love for God, or various topic that love all, serve all, or seva, different answers to this question of what is that one thing which is most important step that Bhagawan expects us to take. And after all that rumination, and answer actually came from Bhagawan himself, where he made it very simple. He just said two things: interest and affection. So I'll pause a few seconds, because it's for all of us to introspect. Are we really interested in God? Okay, give a thought. It's not that we are not, but what that interest is also will define in a few seconds. But interest and affection, as Swami said, is the simple first step. Are we really interested in God? If we are, then we've taken the first step, because rest everything he does. The second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh step is actually his doing. The 7 steps that we spoke in the beginning, it is all his doing. The first step is what we need to take. The life is much easier after that. But that first step is important. Are we having that interest and affection in God? And affection, a dictionary definition is fondness or likeness. You like something, you like somebody, or fondness, simple, words. But interest and affection. So basically, are we really interested in God? And this question was answered by Swami in Kodaikanal. When 1996, I think, Kodai trip, when a lot of students were sitting, next to Swami in those sessions. And one day Swami asked, any questions? So one of the boy raised his hand, and a lot of discussions happened about where is God and how, how do we perceive God and all that. But the question came finally is, how do we reach God? And then Swami said, and this is Swami's narration. So Swami said, very simple. Today, means I'm just narrating as it is, as Swami said. He said, today I'm sitting here on this chair. Okay. All of you are sitting around me. Before this session, there was a session in dining hall. We had lunch. After lunch, all of us know that we are going to meet together here. Now, those people who are desperately interested in God will come running and try to occupy the first place next to Swami's feet. Those people who are, okay, if I get a chance, it's fine. If I don't get, it's also okay. Chalta hai types. What happens? They end up sitting in middle or towards the faggot. So how do we reach God? He says, how much interest and affection you have towards God. Are you desperately interested in God? Come what may, I need to be there because he is my number one priority in life. Okay, number one priority in life. That is where we define interest in God is. Everything else is later. The first thing is God. Everything else, family, job, your bank balances, designations, everything comes later. First, am I really interested in God? And time comes, what is my decision criteria? Is God or the world? So if you have that interest in God, it's the moment you put God as number 2, 3, 4, or 5 priority, it's as good as we don't have interest in God. Many times what we do, let me finish this, then I will think about Swami. Let me do this, and I will do this about, I'll go. So that is the moment you put number 2, 3, 4. It's not bad, but that's not the level of interest which Bhagawan is expecting from us. So that's why interest and affection is a number 1 step. Which is what Swami expects us to take when we say, take 1 step and I'll take 10 towards you. Okay. So that was one answer which Bhagawan very clearly gave, and that's the first step on the journey of surrender. In fact, journey of entire life towards God. We may call it surrender, we may call it love for God, we may call it self-realization, we may call it moksha or nirvana, put any name to it, because ultimately surrender is where we become one with him. So that destination of surrender, the first step has to be, are we really interested in God? And that's where both Swami and Gautam Buddha has said the same statement. If you are interested in me, you deserve me. If you like me, you deserve me. If you see, go and check Bhagwan's messages. If you like me, you deserve me. You need me, you deserve me. But that's exact word. Sorry. If you need me, you deserve me. So how much we really need Bhagawan? Not for just solving problems of life, but it's about companionship. It's an eternal companionship that we ask from him. And that is where if we need him, we deserve him. So that is a statement which Bhagawan himself had said. And Swami also narrated in that same Kodai experience. He said, just visualize a bow and arrow. Okay. So if you want the arrow to go very far off, you'll obviously pull the string as far as possible. And then you release that. So which he says, how much pull that you have, that love strings of love, which he says as a strings of love in that example, how much far you pull is where it shows your level of interest, because that is how faster it will reach God. So he actually explains with that analogy. And if all of us have seen all the divine masters, they always explain these concepts of spirituality through an analogy. Because that is the best way which we can understand. And that's why he was actually in that Kodai experience, he was actually standing and saying, this is how the bow is, this is how the arrow is. And the more I pull, obviously the faster it will reach. So how much my pull inside towards God is, which defines my first step towards him. That the pull is basically, again, interest and affection towards God. And coming to how it happened to me. Okay, this is the concept. Now, practical aspect, how it happened to me. When I was a small child, obviously I was born in a Sai family, as uncle also introduced, in 55 years now. So my great grandparents, parents, and myself, so the fourth generation, born in a family where Swami was already God in the family. But I hardly experienced him as God, because I was a very small child trying to understand, and it was given that he is God. But what is God itself, I didn't know. Till I came to my 8th standard, and my maternal uncle actually joined there for his master's in business administration in Parthi. And till then, I didn't even knew that there is a college there. But he joined for a 2 years course. And every evening, whenever we used to visit Parthi, there was a chance to speak to him. And he used to narrate very many experiences of Bhagawan. That today this happened, today I got this interview, this is what Swami guided us, this is what Swami did. And eventually he also went to Kodaikanal. So he spoke about what all happened in the Kodaikanal, and he used to write letters. See, this is early 90s. There was no email system those days. So he used to write those long letters and send across to all of us. And eventually, because the family is large and everybody is devotee and everybody wanted to read and have a copy of those letters, because the letters was filled with beautiful experiences. So we used to do photocopy of the same letter and distribute among all the families. And I started reading those letters. I started meeting him, and eventually my visit to Parthi became very many times in a year, not because to have Swami's darshan, that became a secondary, but to listen to Swami's experiences. Because I was still trying to figure out who Swami was, and whether, he's God is fine, but what God itself was not very clear at the age of 10, 11, 12 for me. So I was going through that experience of meeting him, listening to him, and it was like heaven, absolute heaven. And that evoked tremendous interest. And I said, no, I want to be part of Swami's college. I want to be part of the institution. Somehow I want to join this place, come what may, whatever it takes. So that is where the interest, when we spoke about how do we, now the question all of us are listening, right? Interest and affection is important. How do we evoke that interest? It is through satsang. Okay, there's an answer which even Bhagawan has given. Satsangatve, all of us know in Bhaja Govindam. Satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangate gatve nirmohatvam. Okay, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, and nichalatatve jivan mukti. So that's the first step, satsang. It's a good company. ABC of life is avoid bad company. In other words, Swami says. So that's how that satsang began. And then I started listening more and more and more and more. And a time came, sometimes we go crazy, because when the interest and affection reaches a hilt type, you start imagining things, you start visualizing things. And he used to obviously share his photographs with us about Kodaikanal, with Swami. And all of us would have seen, there are a lot of photographs, boys click with Swami in Kodaikanal, one-to-one and in a group and all that. So he used to send those photographs along with the letters. I started looking at the photograph and started visualizing that if I'm there next to Swami, how it will be. And that's how that craziness, or you can say madness, or whatever words you can use, that began. That's how the journey began. And I said, no, I want to be part of this. That hunger that was evoked in me, that I want to be part of this college, whatever it takes. So I spoke to him. I said, what is the application? How do I do? What are the things that I need to kind of apply? What I need to be prepared for? All that obviously started. But parallelly, there are 3 more people in my life, okay, which I would say I'm blessed with. And I think some of us and all of us are blessed with in many ways, because my both parents and my Balvika's guru, she is unfortunately no more, or she has actually got liberated, in after when she left her body well before Swami's Mahasamadhi. And that's a different experience. Maybe some other time I'll narrate. But these 3 people are the ones who were trying to nurture this foundation of interest and affection in God constantly by talking about him. And there was, my Balvika's guru was behind me, that now after you have completed Balvika's, you should now aim to join Parthi. So she was another one who was fueling the desire to be with God. So satsang in these ways evoke that interest and affection. And so what is a learning for us at this stage is, whenever we get an opportunity, like how we are together today in this evening, we would have chosen something else also on a Sunday evening. We would have watched a movie or watched a whatever cricket match or went out somewhere, whatever possible things are there. But having chosen to be here, so all of us are highly blessed, because more and more satsang we listen to, more and more we listen to his experiences, that interest and affection starts getting evoked in us. And that's the first step. We need to dig a lot. It's not that one satsang will be enough. Probably we'll have to have many more satsangs. So I had a 2 or 3 years of satsang with him, which actually cemented that interest and affection in God, that I need to be in Parthi. And that led to the second step. Okay, second step of on the path of surrender, basically giving God the first priority in life. Okay. Now, what we just discussed is how do we define that interest? Obviously, giving God the first priority. But how that practically happened in my life is when I came across a major decision. I completed my 10th standard, and then there came the entrance test. Okay, entrance into Parthi. Now, all throughout, by Swami's grace, I was a merit student. So I was getting good marks in my school days, all tests and exams and everything. And I was having a dream to become orthopedic surgeon. Okay, how that dream came is a very different story. But at the age of 14, 15, I was harboring the dream of becoming an orthopedic surgeon. And for that, obviously, you need to choose science, and then you do MBBS, and then you do MS, orthopedic, and then that's how you qualify. So I knew that path also, that this is how we need to do. But once 10th exam, I was coming closer to the 10th board exam, and I was doing very well. I mean, marks were enough for me to get into a science, degree also in my 11th standard. But I think I'll tell you the date also, February 17th, 1995. That was a time when I went to Dharmakshetra. And for those who probably are joining from outside Mumbai, Dharmakshetra is Bhagawan's residence in Mumbai. I went there and I met a couple of people, and they said, this discussion started happening that, I am planning to apply for science. And they said, this science means you will do 2 years, 11th and 12th. After that, you will have to come out, because Swami's institution doesn't have MBBS and MS. You will have to do it from outside. So you get only 2 years to, be with Swami. Whereas if you take commerce, you get 7 years. So 2 years, 11, 12, you get BCom in Vrindavan, and then you get MBA in Parthi. So 2 plus 3 plus 2, 7 years. So decide well what you want to do. Now you can imagine commerce and orthopedic surgeon. There's no connection. There's not even a distinct connection. Somewhere it will get connected. There's no way. They're like poles apart. But then I went into rumination mode. I came back on that February 17th, 1995, I came back home. And I think 20th or 21st was the time when I was to apply, for Parthi for that year after my 10th. And then after 3 days of introspection, I took a call to let me go for commerce. And, my parents asked, are you sure? Because where is your dream and where you're going? Now, the only thing I had in my mind was, I want to be with 7 years, at least, whatever maximum time I can be. So 7 years is the most important, which I'll get chance with Swami. If I take up orthopedic surgeon as my career, science, then it'll be only 2 years. Now, why I'm narrating this little backdrop, because there is something more dramatic that is going to happen. In a few seconds, I'll narrate that. But why this was happening was, again, interest and desperation to be with God. So that is what again Swami did through those 3 years of satsang with my uncle when he was studying there, and the letters I was reading and the experiences I was going through. So that cemented that interest, and that helped me to take a call that 7 years with God is more important than 2 years with God in science or orthopedic surgeon. Orthopedic surgeon is a very, it's a not easy career, and if you get through, and I had marks, then naturally by his grace, I could have got through that admission also. But naturally, my choice went into commerce because of being with Swami. So I took that call. My schoolmates all were shocked. They said, "Have you gone mad? Means nobody will take a call like this, that suddenly you shift to commerce. After say BCom, suppose you don't get an MBA admission there, what will you do? You are back home and nothing will, you lost your whatever plan it is." I said, "I don't care, but this path gives me 7 years. That's about it. Only one focus I had was I want to be with Swami, because of that interest, which was, through satsang, which was kind of cemented." I applied for commerce. Then I got the call letter, and the desperation was so much that I felt call letter I received was like as if I got the admission. I felt like, putting into an kind of, photo frame type and preserve it. And fortunately, I still have the call letter. It's a preserved position for me, very special position, because that was the first time I got a call from Prashparthi to be his student. That is where the emotions went high on when I received it. I'm just narrating this little in detail because you can see the desperation which has gone into me, because I want to be with him at any damn cost. Means whatever it takes, I want to be with him. So moment I got that call letter, obviously entrance exam came. In the entrance exam, there are 5 sections. Okay, typically, you have English comprehension, and there are some logical reasoning typically that we have. And then obviously the most dreaded and the most toughest was the quantitative methods or quantitative techniques. And that was something which I practiced a lot, but somehow I was not getting through. And these are objective questions. So, and they're back-to-back 5 sections in one single entrance test. Every section has 30 minutes and 25 questions to answer. Okay. So I was quite comfortable in the 4 sections, barring the quantitative piece, which was quite a bit pain. Means I went through a lot of practice, but somehow I was not getting through. Finally, the day arrived of entrance test. The 4 sections went very smoothly for me in Parthi. So entrance test was in Parthi, so went through comfortably. Came quantitative methods with lot of difficulty. I answered 2 questions in 25 minutes. Out of 25 questions, which I'm supposed to answer in 30 minutes, I answered 2 questions in 25 minutes, and I had 5 minutes more left. And the invigilator started telling, that time is up, just like how I requested Srinivasan uncle that before 5 minutes ring the bell. So that person started ring the bell, 5 more minutes left, you need to wind out quickly. And I had 23 questions to answer still. Okay, and one more, issue in this entire thing was there is a negative marking. So you happen to have even 1 or 2 both answers wrong, then you have gone in a negative, not even 0. And if you happen to fail in any of these 5 sections, it's not a summary of all and then you pass or fail. If any of the sections you are in a negative side or you are less than pass percentage marks, you are straight away out. Means there's no way that you stand to even get selected for written test interview, the second step which is there. And I just looked at, I was carrying Swami's photograph. I looked at him, I said, I don't know what to do. And then suddenly, an idea came. Okay, idea came. I would say that idea came because he actually instilled that idea in that fat moment when I was in a desperate situation of getting out of the entire entrance test. And what that idea was, I don't know, all of you, probably most of you would have heard it by now, because those days it was rare, now it has become very popular. The so-called Om Sairam technique. Okay, a lot of you would have heard it. One important point is don't go for it just like that. I went through it because a lot of efforts I put it and I was not able to get through it. And the last hope was to do this Om Sairam technique. And those of you who do not know, I'll explain how that Om Sairam technique works. Every question has 5 options, A, B, C, D, E. You have to just tick one of them. Okay, and that's how. So A means Om, B means Sai, C means Ram. Then D becomes Om, E becomes Sai, and next questions A become Ram. So that's how you continue the entire Om Sairam, and wherever Ram came, you keep ticking. And I exactly did the same. So my third question, fourth question, fifth, and see, if I was not even reading the question, I just went on just counting Om Sairam, Ram tick, Om Sairam, Ram tick, okay, Om Sairam tick. Within 2 minutes, I had finished the remaining 23 questions. So actually, before the end of the last bell, I had completed all 25 questions without reading the questions itself. Okay, this got completed. I left it to Bhagawan and I came out. And obviously, after the test, everybody discusses, right? How was your test? What did you do? This was tough and that. So people asked me and I said, this is what I did. And everybody said, you are the most craziest human being because this is not the way to, take chances in your entrance test. I said, I didn't have any choice. See, the lesson which I was learning in this episode is do your best. Okay, it's not you have to, because there is a ready-made Om Sairam technique, so I'll put my efforts to the minimal. As Swami says, 95% effort and 5% grace for us to achieve anything. So efforts I did to the best of my ability by practicing, repracticing and writing, going through a lot of test papers also, practice papers also. Even on that day, up till 25 minutes, I was trying to resolve as many possible, but somehow it was not getting through. And the last piece was when I said, Swami, now it's up to you to do. And this idea definitely clicked me up, and then immediately I finished it. Okay, after 3 days, the results came. I was selected for the interview. So at least I got to know that the shortlisting I've cleared. The written test shortlist is clear. I don't know what happened, but I somehow got cleared. So I was happy till I got cleared. I'm not in a negative zone. Entrance interview went very smoothly. Very, very smoothly. I mean, hardly they asked any question. 10-minute interview. They just asked me which games I like, what time you go to bed, what time you get up, and will you be happy to, and finally the last question they said, will you be happy if we give you the admission? So it was like a cakewalk interview, and by that time I realized that moment you ask this question, will you be happy if we give you admission, I knew that I've got through. So I said, obviously this is my dream come true, and then I came out extremely overjoyed, and lo and behold, I got the admission. But the crux of this entire piece is, after I got through the admission, I was curious to know where that Om Sairam has gone. So after I joined the school, I got to know which teacher evaluated which paper. And I just, requested him, okay, I want to know that, this paper which I did, I want to know how many marks I got. So obviously he said, yeah, I'm not supposed to share with you, and these are confidential thing. And then you got the admission, be happy. I want to know how much you got and all that. So I told him, I'm telling you with a reason. So he asked me, obviously, what is that reason? So I told him the entire story. This is what I did. He said, did you do this really? I said, this is exactly what I did. And that's why I'm curious to know where it went. So he said, okay, I'll go inside, I'll check the paper, but it is not for public. Now it has become public. So in case he wants to bash me up, it's okay. But the important point to note is when he came out of the entire, he saw the paper and he came out. He said, you will not believe that you stood first in the entrance test. So that, kind of, even when I'm narrating to you now, I'm getting goosebumps. I mean, it is only he and he alone can do this. He alone can do this. There's no way, anybody has the capacity, especially a person like me who was not well, enough in a entrance test of quantitative areas to get first. And first is possible only when you're able to get sizable marks in each of your sections. So that's why this became a very, very, very important experience to me that, when you want to be with God, when you are desperate to be with God, you want to give him the first priority. You've chosen him above the world. You've chosen commerce above your dream of becoming an orthopedic surgeon. God also responds. It's a two-way relationship, right? It's not just one way. And he's actually more hungry and eager to connect with us than we ourselves are. And that is how he responded. He's saying, okay, you want to be with me, here I am. I'll get you inside. Because you've chosen God above the world, God responds amazingly. Because I went through my 7 years, and in fact, I'm reaping the benefit of that. It's not that I lost anything. Probably I've gained more than what I would have dreamt if I would have become an orthopedic surgeon. So once you choose God over the world, naturally, God takes care. He ensures that you are in with him. He responds to our prayers and ensures that even subsequently, you don't suffer just because you're let go of your dream and you've chosen God above the world. And that's why the second step, as you are getting more and more and more hungry to be with God or more and more interested to be in God, the second step comes is you start giving him the first priority in life. Everything you want to give him the first priority. What does Swami want? Every decision in our life, what does Swami want? What Swami would have thought about me? Does Swami want me to do this or do that? He becomes number one priority. And that is where the second step comes into our life. And obviously, after the entrance test, after even on the first day of joining the school, that morning, Bhagawan blessed my mother with a dream. And we were staying inside the ashram. I will tell you the date also. It was 5th of June, 1995. That morning at 4 o'clock, my mom got a dream where there was a knock on the door. And moment the knock, she opened the door. Swami was standing there. And Swami straight away walked inside the house, the room which we were staying then. And he walks inside the house and he asked my mother, where is Siddhart? And then she says, no, he is getting ready. And I was in the bathroom to have bath and, get ready for joining the school. So Swami straight away goes, to the bathroom and he keeps knocking the door. And, I just opened the door, because somebody was constantly knocking and I was wondering, who is that? And I see Swami standing there. This is all happening in the dream. So Swami standing there and then Swami actually telling me in that dream that I've been waiting for you. How much time you will take to join? And it was 4 a.m. in the morning. So my mom woke me up at 4 a.m. that Swami is telling that he's waiting and you have to join. I said, 4 a.m. who is going to be there? And that's how she narrates this experience at that morning, because she woke up with the dream at 4 a.m. and she said, this is what happened. So that is how the entry into Bhagavan's institution happened, which Swami was confirming this entire episode that if you are choosing me above the world, I'm equally desperate for you and I'm waiting for you to come. And that's why it is. And obviously, once you have God in our life, the world becomes, the life becomes a far, far nectarine, journey with him. And that's why there's a famous saying, when you walk alone in life, it is a race. But when you have God with you, it becomes a grace. So, when we have God with us, life becomes grace. And everywhere you start seeing him in different ways. So that's obviously, I'm, moving to the next step. But taking a pause, the first step, as we discussed, was interest and affection in God. Okay, and the satsang is the best means to have to develop that interest in us. Okay, about God. The more and more we hear about him, the more and more we listen about him, the more and more we start visualizing, imagining him with us, internalizing that satsang. It's not just listening and going away. And that's why many times, when we have this kind of satsang and we are said to speak about experiences, is fine. Pure experience will be an entertainment. After a couple of hours, we'll not even remember most of it. But what is important is, what are the learning lessons we have got? How do we internalize those? And that becomes an effective satsang for us. And that's why I'm repeating at times. You may wonder why this guy is repeating, but important is we need to carry on this message. First step is interest and affection towards God. Okay, satsang is the means to achieve the interest and affection. Second comes is how you give your priority to God. So God becomes the first priority of our life. Okay, and that's why you always in your choices you give God as the first priority and second to the world. Okay, as we progress on this path, comes the third step: hunger for God. All of us know about the famous Pepsi line, "Ye dil mange more." And actually it happens that once you have a taste of God, slight taste, it's like a nectar, you just taste it, then you go crazy after. Okay, some of us, or if most of us, would have tasted that little bit, you will be able to appreciate what we are discussing. Little bit of taste of God, okay, life changes. You go into an intoxication mode with it. See, it's always, say a child, okay, a child is there, you tell him gulab jamun is very nice, you have it. Now he may never taste it, so no, first will be no. But then you say that you taste at least once, see how it is. After that you say no. All of us do that, right, to our children. And many times as elderly people also, first time we're eating something, our friends will say, "Ek bar tum chak lo," then uske baad you say no, it's okay. But that is what we need to do. So just one taste. Once you have tasted the nectar, and then see what happens. And that's why the first taste is important. That's why the third step is hunger for God. And for hunger, we need to taste that nectar once. Again, I go back to satsang, because satsang, a repeated satsang, it's not a one-time event. It's on a regular basis, slowly and steadily. unknowingly, we are coming towards closer and closer to God. And you never know at what stage in our life we'll just dip into that nectar. And suddenly you get a taste of it. And that will be the ever since moment in our life, or a transformational time, or that, pivotal time in our life where the world changes for us. And that's why the third step is important. Is it's not after we reach third step, the first and second is out. Constantly interest, affection, satsang continues in that cycle. We start giving God the first priority, and as we give him first priority, slowly and steadily you would start tasting God. And once we start tasting God's love, God means God's love. As Swami says, God is love and live in love. So we start tasting his love, then that develops hunger in us. Okay, and that hunger can actually is enough. Many times, if you would have heard this many times, that Swami has also mentioned this. It's not important to reach God. It's important to pine for God. So if you look at all the divine saints of, Tukaram is one, Tyagaraja is one, Tulsi Das is one, Mirabai is one. Pick up any saint. How many of them actually saw God in the beginning? Okay, in our case, we are far luckier than them. We actually saw God, we met him, we spoke to him, we touched him, we experienced him. But those divine saints who were there, they never got. There was no living God in those times. But their pining was enough to reach that stage. Okay, and that's why Swami gives a lot of importance. If we go through his discourses, he gives a lot of importance to pining for God. That is of paramount importance. Reaching God will happen on its own, but pining of God is important. That's where the third step is hunger for God. And looking at that particular step, there came a situation in my life where I had gone through satsang. I've lived 11th and 12th standard 2 years with Bhagawan. I had got a taste of his love. I knew little bit of, nobody can comprehend Swami entirely, even till today. He's beyond our comprehension, but little bit of taste, I got the chance to taste, and I said, okay, this is, ultimately, this is the best that can happen to any human being. Okay. And that is where, after 2 years of that, came my BCom honors entrance test. Okay. When I was entering the next phase of my education in Parthi, and entrance test was fine. The written test went very well. Group discussion went very well. Then came an interview. Okay. In the interview, first half of interview went very well. Everything was fantastic. Then came a question where that entire world changed for me. The question was the vice chancellor. So there is, for those who may not know, the entrance interview in university, because I was in school in 11th, 12th, in Parthi, 11th, 12th is school, CBSE school. Now BCom is a degree in the university. So university, you have a vice chancellor, you've got the head of department, you've got hostel warden, you've got several teachers, eminent teachers, heads of department sitting, 7-8 people in a semicircle, and you're right in the center. So it's almost, you feel like Abhimanyu in the war. You've been screwed from all sides types. But that is how very eminent senior people, and right in the center is vice chancellor sitting there. And he asked one question out of the blue. The question obviously referred to my application form. An application form had one question there. Any brother or sister, studying or studied in our university? So name and which batch. And I had put my uncle's name, the uncle who evoked interest in the first step, which I said about satsang and all that. So I put his name. And so vice chancellor asked me, how is this boy related to you? So I told him my maternal uncle. So he became very serious. He looked at me and said, that means you don't know how to fill the form. And I was taken aback. I said, I became mum, and I was looking at him very seriously. And he said, look at the question that we have asked. Is your brother or sister studied or studying currently in our university? Name and the batch. What have you written? Maternal uncle. So is uncle your brother or a sister? So what is asked and what have you written? That means you don't know how to read an application form, and worst, you don't even know how to write the responses to application form. Now, I was not ready for this question. It came suddenly, and I was 17 years of age when I was applying for my BCom honors course. And I didn't know how to respond to this. And they were right. It's not that I'm pointing at anybody. They were absolutely right. A mistake was done and they were pointing correctly at me, and I didn't have an answer. So I started perspiring. I didn't know what to do. And I kept mum. Again, he asked, are you able to understand what I'm saying to you? So I said, yes, sir, it's my mistake. And so if a Sai student doesn't know how to fill an application form, how can you be Sai student? Again, there was a pin drop silence. Now everybody, remaining people also became quiet. And finally, he said, see, I think you are not eligible even to apply to us. So I would suggest you, so you are from Bombay, right? I said, yes, sir. I think you can go back to Bombay. We have decided not to take you. So don't wait for results. Don't waste your time. You can go today itself, leave from this place. You can have Swami's darshan in Vrindavan. Swami is in Vrindavan. After that, you go. We will not kind of take you. So, and his vice chancellor, okay, it's not some head of department. It's a vice chancellor who's more or less a deciding authority at that moment. So obviously, some of the teachers whom I knew, they try to salvage the situation, saying that no, sir, his conduct is very good. He plays tabla. There's all good things you're trying to save me. But he said, if he doesn't know how to fill an application, there's in what way I can give him the admission. That's the most fundamental thing. Everything else is fine. But so he just said, okay, no discussions on this. And I started pleading him. I started crying and pleading in the interview room, saying that, sir, it's my mistake. I'll keep in mind. No, that's okay. You keep in mind. So wherever you go, you still are 2 years you studied with us. So you're carrying Swami's name. Wherever you go, keep this in mind. Otherwise, they will say that he was not taught well in his school. So he'll spoil Swami's name. So he went into more detailed kind of, crucifixion, if I may use the word. It came to a level I was not willing to get up from my chair because I didn't want to lose the seat. And finally, he lost his patience and he said, see, I have told you 3 times, I'm not selecting you. We have decided to let you go. You go to Bombay, that's the best place for you. You go, there are enough colleges, you can study there. And please get up and please move out of the room. I am telling you in a polite words, he was quite angry because he was upset that these are basic discipline, basic things also we are not, kind of. So I was still saying, sir, I will do my best. No, it's okay. You do your best. Our best wishes are with you. But please get up and leave the room. Finally, 3-4 times he said, and then I had to obviously get up to respect what he was saying. And then I got out of the room. And just outside the room, as I crossed this threshold, I had collapsed. Not collapsed out of faintness, but collapsed out of a heartbroken situation that I've lost the admission. And then 3 boys came running who were waiting outside. They came running. He said, what happened? And I was wailing. I was not even crying. I was wailing because you can imagine the hunger, the desperation, and then the euphoria of getting inside Bhagawan's college, a school, and the beautiful 2 years I went through. There are many experiences I went through. I'm just fast forwarding because of the time. But a lot of beautiful things happened. And the sacrifice, the so-called sacrifice, God versus the world. Now, had I would have taken science, I would have either way walked out of 12th standard, right? I chose commerce so that I can be with 7 years with Swami. And after 2 years, I've been asked to leave the college. So the so-called decision of commerce probably has gone wrong. Questions started coming in my mind. I was heartbroken. I went out. A lot of people came and gave me water. Then I went outside the college campus. There are more people waiting there because a lot of entrance exams going on. And they could see me. This guy has gone mad. Means I was crying and wailing out of my emotions that this is, it's just a feeling that I'm no longer Swami student. That was a third kind of feeling which completely broke me apart. I went back to the room. I was inconsolable. I cried and cried for several hours. And finally, somewhere I had read, if you want something desperately, you have to give your, you have to show that you actually want it. So how do you pick up a very difficult sadhana, to show to God, I want this at any cost. You have to show that desperation. So I read it somewhere and that came to my mind. I said, it was in month of May. Okay, Swami was in Vrindavan. This was May 1997. I thought for some time, I said, what am I supposed to do? I want this at any cost. I will not let it go. I said, let me do 108 pradakshinas of Ganesha. And what is the toughest time? Afternoon, because it's the month of May. It was extremely hot in Parthi. If some of you have lived there in Parthi or been there in Parthi in April, May, June, at least May, June is still better off. May, the concretes are burning hot. So I said, I will do this sadhana. I will do 108 pradakshinas of Lord Ganesha in the afternoon. So somewhere around 12:31 types, and 108 and barefooted on the concrete which is there. And people said, have you gone mad? I mean, this is not the way to do, and don't put Swami into a difficult situation. I said, I didn't, because the mind was so much. I said, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I just want this to be done. I did that 108 pradakshinas. After 29 or so, I had a huge boils on my feet. So I couldn't walk. And I said, no, I've taken the vow of 108 pradakshinas. I cannot be, incomplete. It's a vow is vow. So finally, I took slippers because I had to complete them. But I finished almost in 4 hours. So 12:30 kind of till 4:30 in the afternoon, I finished it. I came back and I collapsed in my room with big, swollen legs with all kinds of boils around in that heat. But I was happy I finished it. And I prayed to Swami, I leave it to you. This is the best I could do. I don't know how to show my desperation to you. Then we went to Vrindavan for having Swami's darshan before we came back to Bombay. Results are still awaited. But practically, a lot of people said, okay, don't worry, Bombay, you'll have good college. And so I had mentally kind of given up. This is over for me. And I had written a long letter to Swami and then handed over in darshan line in Vrindavan that this is my last letter to you as your student. And probably, I don't know whether once I leave this portals of even Vrindavan, I would become an student, because I know the results are not going to be in my favor. I took a train, and those days, now also Kurla Bangalore Express is there for us. The same train I picked, and the train journey everybody was fine because everybody's interviews went well. I was down throughout. I was listening to people, and I was still reconciling that time is up for me and it's over. And as the train came to the Lokmanya Tilak terminus station, those days it was called as Kurla terminus. The train was coming, to a halt. It was slowly kind of coming through, and then it's coming to a halt. And my father had come to pick me up because I was 17-year-old and going all the way to Borivali where I stay. It was too far. So my father came to pick me up. And lo and behold, what happened? He knew obviously which bogie I am in. So from the window, the train was still, running, and it was about to come to a halt. And he was running with the train from on the platform. And from the window, he's shouting top of his voice to me, you got admission, you got admission. So I was like, how it is possible? I said, I don't believe this. Anyway, train came to a halt. We got in and came back home. And there was a number which was given, to check the results. So I called up to Parthi. So they said, yes, Siddharth Bhatt, this is the BCom honors, you got the admission. I still didn't believe. I again called up again. So then they got irritated. He said, morning also we got a call. Now, sometime back, somebody called, and now again you are calling. We told you that you got admission. So is there any question mark further? We said, no, it's okay. I mean, I was overjoyed out of the blue. So this all got over. I joined Vrindavan. Okay, BCom honors is in Vrindavan. I joined. I was delighted. Obviously, it's a sudden change, from Vice Chancellor saying no and you got admission was a completely different stance. I joined Vrindavan and I happened to meet one of the teachers. And the teachers, normally who take the results inside for Swami. And Swami's final. So Swami's final stamp of approval, even as a Chancellor of the university, in his official capacity, Swami has to approve the results. So he said, normally what happens inside, Swami asked for the 3 sheets. One is the selected sheet. Second is those who came through the last row, last level and then got rejected. And third, who were rejected in the first instance itself. Okay, so 3 lists Swami asks always. And then he looks at and then he gives a final approval. So he said, and obviously he said, among these 3 lists, if Vice Chancellor would have put you in the rejected list in the last level, there's a high probability Swami would have said, I want this boy in the list, which he has done in many times in the past. From the last level of rejected list, he picks up, the person who has come to the final stage and got rejected. He picks up and adds in the main list of students. So he said, this is the only probability that would have happened why you figured out in the final list. Because once Vice Chancellor has taken a decision, you are into actually the rejected list. So the only person, even in official capacity, who can negate a Vice Chancellor is a Chancellor. And Chancellor is Bhagawan Sri Sai Baba. And this is precisely, he said, this is what would have happened. And I told him the entire story of Ganesha and 108 Pradakshinas. He's saying this is how Bhagawan has answered your prayers. So again, it's when the time comes in our life, which is probably, it's getting out of our system. When we really show the desperation to Bhagawan, he does answer our prayers. He answers very beautiful. Had it would have been a normal interview, I would have gone through, got selected, and then everything is wonderful. I wouldn't have even remembered as an experience. But here he was trying to teach me that you have to also deserve God. You are showing desperation is fine. But at different points in time, Bhagavan tests us. And Bhagavan says, test is my taste, right? So it's not that once we are desperate for him, the world is wonderful and that's about it. He will, at different stages, he will keep testing us. Not as a fun, but for us to get promoted to the next level. Okay. And which is where the next stage comes, is the stage number 4 in the journey of surrender, which basically is building the relationship with God. Okay. Unless, so this test of patience, test of eagerness, hunger for God, which Swami was taking. And I'm hoping that with this result, I passed through, and then he immediately promoted me into a next level of relationship, of building relationship with God. Okay. And this is a very important 4th step in the journey of surrender, because it requires a bit of introspection. Okay. It requires a bit of introspection. What is permanent? What is temporary? Okay. What will be with me? What I will not carry with me after my death? The physical body's death. Okay. So if God is permanent and the world is temporary, I need to again choose God. And then that same question of, God giving the first priority, then developing the hunger for God, developing the desperation, and that desperation also being tested by God. Okay. That all happens. And that's why Swami actually provides a very beautiful analogy, which again touched my heart, and most of you may know it, but I just thought this is a good time to share, is if you want to put a photograph on the wall, what will you do? First thing, you'll pick up a nail, you'll obviously pick up the hammer and then try to do it. Okay. And then after that is done, you start checking whether it is really stuck well or it is still loose. If it is loose, then you may either put some more, or you may just remove it and keep it aside and pick a next nail. If it is firm, fixed, then God immediately puts the photograph, or we put the photograph. So that's an analogy. And Bhagavan says the same thing, that in our life, he has picked up, okay, in this example that we just saw, the entrance test for the BCom, he picked up, a nail is picked up, and he has hammered through those experiences, Satsang, all that I'm thinking about him, getting desperation for him. So he has put that nail. What he was doing through the BCom experiences is trying to remove and then see whether it is stuck really, or it is, I need to keep it aside. So that is where the test comes for us, where it's really trying to see whether it is there. Because fortunately, his grace, that probably the nail was hit strong enough, he said, okay, let me now put a photograph, because his nail is strong. And that is where the 4th step of building relationship with God comes. Building relationship is where it is permanent relationship. The best part of is, see, many times, it's a love story with God. Okay. Any relationship obviously is, the foundation is faith and love. And any relationship in our life, it always peaks. It starts at a lower level, it peaks, and then eventually it starts tapering down. If you put in a graph, pick any relationship in our life, be it any relationship, okay, barring the parents obviously is a different horizon, but rest of the relationship in the world is always, it goes down. But the beauty of relation with God is it picks up and it picks up and it picks up and it always picks up. It only becomes beautiful and beautiful and beautiful as time progresses. There is no tapering down in the relationship. That's a rare phenomena, because entire world talks about gravity, but there is no gravity in relation with God. There is no pulling down. It always goes up. Yes, it's like a snake and ladder. Many times you'll have a snakes coming in, which is Bhagwan's test coming in. But eventually what happens, you cross through that level. Obviously you jump over to the snake, you have a ladder ahead and you further go up. So this relationship with God is absolutely beautiful, nectarine. It never tapers. It is permanent, eternal, and it's beyond life and death. Okay, that is where the 4th step we start. Once your hunger for God, obviously it culminates into this after we have passed the test. And that is where Bhagavan builds that relationship. He also puts a lot of work into the relationship. It's not only that we have to put work, because once he has put the the photo frame on the nail, then naturally he also is putting the effort to build that connect. And that's why our receptivity is very, very important. So there are several episodes in my life where the relationship was where I faltered, but his effort brought me back in the shape. So I will, because of want of time, I will narrate only one episode. There are two major episodes. One is about my entrance test again in the Masters in Business Administration, and how that, how I wanted to leave Swami and go, and then he said, nothing doing you, I wanted to be here. So that is a very different episode, which again, want of time, I will not narrate. But there is a second episode after I have finished my education. Okay, and I'm more keen to share because it was in the month of August 2002. 2nd of August 2002, I was leaving, Parthi. So I stayed back for 4-5 months after my final examination in my MBA, and I stayed 5 months till August because I was getting chance to play tabla in Mandir. And exactly 2nd of August, I was leaving again the same Kurla train, and I was coming back overnight journey. And 3rd of August, I was to reach in Bombay. The 2nd August, when I went, I was morning darshan was over, and since I was playing tabla, I was sitting right on the threshold of the bhajan hall next to Swami's throne, which is bang opposite to the interview room door. So moment you sit there, first thing that Swami sees is you. Whenever he comes out of the interview room. So moment he opened his, and morning after morning Aarti, Swami generally takes his meals. So inside the interview room, and there's a dining hall. So after he meals, he comes out and he goes to the Purna Chandra, that is where he used to stay in those days. There was no Jajur Mandir. So as he came out, immediately I was kneeling down. So he asked me what. So I told him, Swami, I'm leaving today. So he said, come inside. And there was nobody. So only me and Swami inside. And Swami spoke a lot about some village seva and something in Telugu, which till today, unfortunately, I couldn't grasp much. But he was in his own dream world type. He was looking somewhere and talking and talking and talking and talking. And I was listening to him. And there was nobody else. So then I asked him, should I go or not? Because you have something in mind. I'm happy to stay back. But he said, no, jao. Tum jao, service karo. So then I asked him, Swami, today if I'm leaving, I want you to be with me all the time. It's not that, my education has come to an end. 7 years dream run is over. It's not that dream has ended. It should continue from here. So he gave me a vibhuti packets, and he made that, common statement, but very important statement. I am with you, in you, above you, below you, around you. I'm always with you. He made this statement, gave me Pad Namaskar, gave vibhuti packets. He said, Tum jao. Okay. So I heard it. I didn't know that how serious, because that statement Swami always, makes. So I also personally, honestly took quite casually, but I said, Chalo, Swami said, I'm with you. I got the Pad Namaskar, I got vibhuti packets. Came out. Swami went to Purnachandra, that is where his residence was. Evening train I took. Overnight journey, 3rd August 2002, I came back to Bombay. First night, okay, as a so-called ex-student, okay, in my life now. After 7 years are over. So I'm back in Mumbai. And that night I get a dream. Okay, the dream is, there is a obviously knock on the door, exactly the house which I'm staying. And I see obviously Swami standing there. So I see, oh, Swami, in my house in Bombay. And then he walks inside. In those days, there was no wheelchair. Swami was walking very fast. Some of you may remember those days. Late 90s, early 2000, he was very fast in walking. He fell later on and then got into the wheelchair. But those days, so he came straight away inside. Then he started looking. This is my room. This is my room. So this is pointed with his finger. This is my room. So there's an inner bedroom. So before I could understand what he was saying and what I need to do, he straight away walked inside. He walked straight inside that room. And I was chasing him because, as I told you, he was walking very fast. So I had to literally match up to his speed. And I walked behind him. And as I reached it, obviously there was a washroom connected to that bedroom. So he went to the washroom and closed the door. And there was obviously light, and also I was waiting outside. After a few minutes, Swami came out. And then he looked at me. He said, this is the room I'm going to stay. So I said, okay, Swami. And then after that, he was looking at me, I'm looking at him. I said, okay, Swami. And the dream ended. Abruptly, it just ended. I woke up in the morning with this dream, and then it struck me immediately. It was the first night I'm back in Mumbai as ex-student or, post my education. And what did Swami say? I'm always with you. Okay, I'm always with you. Probably I was not sharp enough to understand the significance. I thought it's a casual statement. So to make it a point that I'm not just telling you for sake of telling, but I have actually come with you to Bombay, and this is the room I'm going to stay, and to have eliminate all possible doubts of interpretation, he used the washroom. See, washroom means basically he's established himself. He's using that house. He's living in that room. So and then after that also he said, this is the room I'm going to stay. So the saga continued, and that is where I'm saying the relationship with God is permanent. It's not that for some time you have, and then after that you're out, means you're gone. We may leave him and go, but he never leaves us. And Swami has said many times to us that you may leave me and go, but I will never leave you. Once I've taken your hand in my hand, you are mine, and that's about it. Okay, nothing, no further discussion. Means it's very, very, kind of, and that's why many times Swami puts devotees into two buckets. There are two types of devotees. One type of devotee is where he will say, he will suggest something. Do this, don't do this. Because we ask him, he says, do this, suggestion. After that, he leaves it to us. So he has given his suggestion. It's your choice to follow the suggestion or not to do. Second type of devotee is, he will say, this is what you will do. And no discussion, no arguments. I'm telling you, this is what you will do. And that is the second type of devotee, where surrender is a way of life. He says, I have nothing, I have no question of should I or shouldn't I. He says, that's about it, that's period, that's a final authority. And to reach that level is where this path is important, because then he starts owning us. That's why building the relationship with God, eventually he starts owning us. Okay, till now there was hunger, interest, satsang, all that. So slowly, the two beings, the God and devotee, are slowly coming closer and closer and closer. But what happens, once the relationship is developed, it's like a magnet. And Swami gives a beautiful example of magnet and iron filings. If iron filings are impure, the magnet cannot be attractive to it. So through satsang, seva, lot of work that we need to do to purify the iron filings. And once iron filings are purified, parallelly it is coming closer and closer to the magnet. Moment it comes closer to the magnet, immediately the magnet catches it. And once it catches it, then iron filings cannot get out of the magnet. It is now part of the magnet's entire, influence. And that is where Bhagawan, once we develop this close relationship with him, he owns. Then he is the boss. He takes a call. You will do this and you will not do this. And more we are happy as devotees because we want him to take the decision. We don't want us to come anyway. No mind, no thoughts, no analysis, no paralysis. Every decision he takes, and that's about it. Okay. And that is where in this beautiful relationship came two more very, very interesting episodes. Okay. Very interesting episodes. And these happened post 2011. So anybody who has question marks, does Sai Baba still is in operational mode, or he has gone in the samadhi and the world has come to a standstill? No way. Okay, I'll tell you why. See, 2015, I'll tell you the date also. Okay, June 1st, 2015. As Bhagawan had taken charge of this life, where he was the decision factor, he is the person who will take a call, what job I should do, what I should not do. Okay, there are very many experiences of where I want to do something, you said nothing doing, you're doing this, otherwise, that's about it. I will not allow you to take up anything else. So by the time I realized that, let him take the call, I should not put my likes and dislikes in between. And that's one of the quality which the realization comes to us, that, we can't have likes and dislikes in the journey of surrender. Surrender is once, as Swami says, sir, under to me. Swami, in pun he plays, sir, under to me. So once we are under him, he is the person who will take the decisions. And our likes and dislikes are no longer, kind of important, or no longer are relevant anymore. So in that state, I was going through a difficult phase in my job. And somewhere in month of March 2015, so 4 years after Mahasamadhi, I just prayed to Swami, I'm not happy with the job. I don't know what you want me to do. So no likes and dislikes. I told him I'm not happy. See, in relationship, you also communicate. It's not that you become glum and then you keep quiet and let him do whatever he wants. That happens eventually. but you are in conversation mode in a relationship. So I'm praying to Swami, I'm not happy with my current job. I don't know if you want me to do something else or push me some other place. I mean, you look into the matter. Whatever you decide is best. Again, shopkeeper and this. So I like the toffee, but you have to give the toffee. I'm not going to take the toffee. Okay. So March end, I prayed this. April 8th, April 7th, I'll tell you the date also exact, 10 days later. Somehow this is stuck into my head. April 7th, I got a call on its own. Okay, no involvement. So shopkeeper at work or God at work. So April 7th, I got a call from Tata Group Chairman's office. Okay, I was working in Tata Motors. Okay, then, and I get a call saying that we need a person in the strategy department. We have found you to be suitable. So will you be okay to join us? So I said, I have not shared my CV. There is no application. They said, no, that's okay. We have got to know about you. You've done all the inquiries and your background is suitable. You have to just say yes or no. And rest we will take care. I was quite surprised because I don't know the person. I don't know how this has happened. It's just a call. So I just tell him by when I can respond to, because I need to first digest. Tata Group Chairman's office is not a small office. It's probably the most powerful office in the corporate world today in India. He said, see, you can take a couple of hours or maybe max of one day. And I said, I have to inform my boss and all that. They said, that will leave it to us. Everything else we will do. You just say yes or no. So I called up my parents. I said, this is what has come. They said, take it as Bhagawan's grace. Either way, you are not happy with the current job. And this has come on its own. There's zero involvement from you. You're not even shared your email, CV, anything. So just say yes and go ahead. I said, okay. So I called up within an hour's time. I said, I'm okay. Next day, I think 8th of April, I got a call from my boss saying that apparently chairman's office wants you to join them. So I said, yeah, I just got a call. He said, don't leave the opportunity. It's good. It's meant for you. It's your background is there, and it's a great opportunity. So, but I will request them to give us a couple of months because we need to find a replacement for you. It should not happen that tomorrow you leave and then there's nobody to take care. So that process happened. They also agreed 2 months. And finally, 1st of June, I joined. I joined the chairman's office, Bombay House, which is the headquarters in Fort. On the top floor, I go. And obviously, I was received very well. I was taken to meet a lot of big shots. All the people whom I have read in the newspaper and seen their photographs are actually face to face with me. So I was meeting everybody. And after that, obviously, I was taken to my desk. The desk and, white sunmica everywhere, okay, in the office, clean, neat and tidy. But something extraordinary happened on the desk. Okay, I know, I can read the lips of Srinivasan uncle. He said photograph. It was Sanatan Sarthi kept. Okay, latest edition Sanatan Sarthi. Bhagwan's both Abhayasta. Nothing else on their desk. It's only that. And in a place where you will not expect anything about Swami there. Like a corporate world, it's a group chairman's office. You can expect CRISIL reports or McKinsey or anything, not Sanatan Sarthi there. So I immediately asked, who has kept this, and so they also didn't know my background. See, they had not seen my CV. So the person came running, sorry, we'll remove. I said, don't remove. I want it. This is my prized possession. I want to know who has kept this here. So they said, I don't know if somebody would have kept, or, how come it came and all that. There was no clear answer given. But what message I was getting is, June 1st, okay, I'm joining. It's a first day in a chairman's office. Has it come from Swami when I was trying to accept it? There are a lot of question marks, right? Whether I'm going in the right place, whether I will do, not do. But here Bhagawan was sealing the thing, that saying that I am the Sarathi in your life. Okay. Remember what we said, sir under to me, he is the boss. He has taken a decision. He is just trying to confirm that I have taken you here. And that's why it's not just a photo, it's a Sanatana Sarthi. So there is a message that I am the eternal charioteer of life. I brought you till here. You wanted something, you were not happy with your job. The call came on its own, and it is me who has brought you here. So that is, imagine post Mahasamadhi. So Bhagawan does listen. We may not be able to see his physical frame, but he does listen. Okay. So this is one episode. Now, even more interesting thing happened. So I spent a year or so. Then came 2016. Okay, again, all these are post Mahasamadhi. 2016. 2016, after I've spent good amount of time with the group chairman, Tata Motors was hiring a new MD, managing director and CEO, and they were looking for an executive assistant, which is almost an equally powerful place, because many times executive assistant also represent MD in different meetings and discussions, and they take a call on behalf of the MD. So it's a very strategic position. And out of the world, again, my name came up and I was selected part of that team. So from chairman's office, I moved to the Tata Motors MD's office. All great positions. See, you may aspire that, can I do head of this department, head of that department, or God is saying, why head? You are asking 3 toffees, I'm giving you 15. And that 15 toffee is, look at these positions. I mean, these are prized position, a dream position for any corporate, personality who would love to be kind of. So dream opportunities, not part of me, not even dreamt by me, but he has given. So second option came and then I joined this department. And now one important habit, I have is, whenever I change my job, I come to Prashant Nilayam, seek Bhagawan's blessings, either in person earlier, and now I go to the Samadhi and I pray to him that I'm going to the new job, I seek your blessings. This time I didn't get chance when I was joining MD's office, because the previous day I was in a previous job and very next day I was supposed to join here. And first in the morning, so I was sitting in the new desk, and the first day you don't have much work because the MD has just joined and you're also trying to settle down. But I could sense the power of the position, because there are 4 people running around me to either tea, coffee, any books you need, and this thing. So instead of me asking, they are asking me, sir, do you need anything? So I could sense the power of the position. At 10:30 in the morning, I was sitting on my desk and I prayed to Swami. I said, suddenly I'm into this position. It's a very important position, very responsible position. I'm not able to come to Bhakti for a blessings. Okay, I'm missing the opportunity to come to Bhakti. So, and I don't want to miss your blessing. And it's something which I'm not happy with. Everything is fine, but end of the day, again, God is first priority. Means blessing is more important than the job itself. But I'm not getting the chance. 10:30, I was praying this. At 11, half an hour later, one envelope comes on my desk. Okay. Now in the envelope, it's correctly name, address, everything was. See, first day when you are into a new place, ideally the envelope should go to the old address, right? When we change house or job or whatever. But incidentally, it was right address, right designation, everything was perfect. The envelope comes, and so I asked the person who dropped the envelope, I said, who has given? He said, aapke liye aaya tha, to de diya. So I said, okay. I just opened it. I was surprised still. I just opened it. What will I find there? Okay, what will I find there? There was Swami's photograph. There was Vibhuti packet. Okay, which most of you would have guessed it. But even more special was a small chit where it was written, blessings directly from Prashant Nilayam on your first day in office. Now, for a few seconds, just pause and reflect on this. 2016, 5 years post Mahasamadhi. If anybody has any doubt, is Sai Baba active? Not there, not there. He's absolutely there. He is more active than what he was earlier. Because he's listening to every thought, a passing thought, and there is a response to it. 30 minutes his response. It's not that after 10 days that messages come, right? 30 minutes he says, blessings directly from Prashant Nilayam on your first day in office. I mean, how direct Bhagawan can be. So, I mean, how lucky we are that we have got, probably, I don't know, I'm short of words to express, but how lucky we are that we have got a personality, for want of words, a phenomenon, who's eternal, and we have got access to it. It's not easy. It's a rare blessing that we have got among billions of people. There are few millions whom he handpicked as his devotees. And then he said, I want to build that connect with you all the time, building relationship with God. So whether anybody is there or not there, he's always with us, always, come what may. And even beyond his life, COVID times, I mean, there are millions of experiences I can share with you where We cannot go out, but he's inside the house. He's right inside the house. And when I'm telling you, he's right here, sitting here. Some of us can feel him, some of us are yet to feel, depends upon what stages we are in connection with. But that is how direct Bhagavan is, even today. Okay, that's why building relationship is probably the best thing to happen to us as the fifth step. Okay, this is the fifth step, and today, fourth step. And today being Friendship Day, as we become more and more and more closer to him, you know, that relationship develops into a deep friendship. Okay, deep friendship, which in the Navavida Bhakti we say, you know, there is 9 steps to devotion. The last step is Atma Nivedanam, that is surrender. But one step before that is Sneha, which is friendship. And today is the best day, right? Today the world celebrates Friendship Day and all that, though it's not part of a Bharatiya Sanskruti to celebrate this festival, but it's an opportunity to think of God and build that relationship with him. And that's why the deeper and deeper and deeper we become closer and closer, these kind of sneham happens, that kind of, you know, deep friendship get embedded in our life. And then, you know, a time comes when we cannot live without. Okay, a time comes when we cannot live without. And a time also comes when there is a realization. So step 5 of relationship, of deep friendship, it becomes natural to us day to day. I mean, there are again very many episodes where a time comes where you don't have to pray. Okay, a very short, I'm reaching the end moment. I think uncle has forgotten to ring the bell, but I'm saying the time, it is 5 minutes or 4 minutes to close. But there are few things which I will, you know, speak before I close. But an interesting episode happened in 2018. Okay, all this is post Mahasamadhi. 2015-16, I shared with you those kind of how he's, you know, visible into our lives. Okay, and 2018, I was traveling to Bangalore on a company assignment, and it was 1 full week I was to stay in that hotel. And I just landed in the evening on Sunday, and obviously I was checking in, so they were trying to give me the room and all that process was on. And I, you know, once that bill and everything was created, I got a room number 428. Okay, in that entire, and I was to ask to sign and agree, whatever, you know, those things are there. So what happens, you know, sometimes your mind goes to 428, 4 plus 2, 6, 6 plus 8, 14, 14 means so 4 plus 1, 5. Oh, it's not a divine number. Okay, my mental calculation, it's not a divine number. So I just passing thought, how nice, I'm here for a full week. How nice this becomes a divine number. A thought. Okay, just a thought. As I'm thinking, okay, that lady is telling me, just pause, sir, don't sign, just 1 minute. I said, anything wrong? She said, no, just wait 1 minute. She took away the paper. The pen was in my hand to write, and I was just thinking. She just took away the paper. And after 2 minutes, she came back. And what she did, she took a pen, 428 was struck, you know, cancel, and shifted to 423. What is 423? 4 plus 2, 6 and 3, 9. Very subtle episode. You may call luck or coincidence or whatever you may call it. But what I'm saying is, in this relationship, he's listening. A time comes when prayer is also not required. Because you're constantly in communion with him. You are thinking about him, he's thinking about you. You're thinking about him, he's thinking about him. Okay, and what happens in that meeting of minds? So every thought that comes, he starts responding in his own unique style. Okay, there are very many such episodes which are, you know, very subtle, small ones, and you wonder how much he takes care of you. I mean, that's why Swami says that even parents cannot take care that much, a God can take care of. Every small thing he takes care, right? From toothbrush to the bathing soap to the towel, everything. I'm just telling you in a quick time because time is short, but everywhere there is a hand of his which is visible. Okay, and that is how that sneham, it's like two very, very, very close friends. It becomes now difficult to live without each other. Okay, and that is the state when a time comes as the 6th step, a realization happens to us saying that everything is happening by his will, and it is always good for us. It's a big realization because that is where it's like a tipping point. Okay, you have been so close, the magnet and the iron filings are practically now, you know, rubbing and becoming one so much that finally iron filing says that everything is happening to me is by his will. Whether it is worldly way, it may be bad, but for me it is good. Okay, there are many again episodes which are there, in life where some things I didn't want to do it, but he says, as I told you, two types of devotees. No, I want to do this only. And that's why from the worldly angle, people may say, are you a fool to take up this? But his will is very different. And eventually the world is wrong and the God is right. Because see, the difference is he sees past, present, future. We see only the present. We see what is today for us, right? We see our drushti is only today. He sees past, present. He sees long term, what is important to him, we give him that, which we cannot see. And that's why the realization comes that what he does is best. Let's not get into any of our choices in between, because we are not competent enough. That realization comes, we are not competent enough to even decide what is good for me. Because many times, we have these questions in study circle also, saying that if I surrender to God, will God do as I like? I said, then you're not surrendered, because there are no likes and dislikes. In love, there is no likes and dislike. It's what you do is good for me. Whatever you do is good for me. And that is a tipping point. Step number 6, the realization comes when you just say, whatever you do is okay. It is, I have nothing to, ask for. And what you say is perfectly fine with me. And then as we progress on this, and this kind of realization comes repeated, so many incidents happen. And finally you hit the 7th one, where surrender just happens. Okay, here there are 2 important points for us to note. Is there are 2 types of surrender. Okay, one surrender is a verb. I do surrender. मैं surrender करता हूँ. I'm doing it. It's a verb, and that happens typically, when we are in a desperate situation. We have nothing else, nowhere else to go, so we go to God as a last resort. So it's unfortunate that we last resort. God is a last resort in that case. But God in his benevolence and mercy says, okay, child, you have come to me, I'll give you. Okay, and those are momentary surrenders. We go to him because we have no choice. Once things are good, we are back to our life, and God is back in his cabin or wherever he sits in his temple. But the second level of surrender, which we are discussing a lot in last 1.5 hours, it is a noun. It's not a verb. It happens to you. You don't have to surrender. Surrender happens to us automatically. And that's a finale. And that's a finale where exactly, as we have already discussed, whatever he says, is final. And eventually that repeated realization keeps coming. A situation comes. Whatever, Bhagawan does, and you even stop asking, you stop praying to a level, in that level, because he's reading your thoughts. And eventually you come to a realization, even thoughts are provided by him. A step comes, every thought is given by him. Because see, what happens is, iron filings is gone. There is only iron left. The iron filings are merged in iron. So he thinks, he desires, he inspires, he acts, he enjoys. That is a finale where surrender has happened. There is nothing, only he lives. He is left. There is no he and we. There is no he and I. The I is gone. There's only he. And that's the level when our story becomes his story. It's no longer my story, it is his story. Our life is no longer ours, it's his story. And that's why I'll close with a nice analogy again, is given by Bhagawan himself. It's about the pencil. Okay. All of us know the pencil obviously has a lead, and the outer covering is the wood, and then we have a rubber on the back end. So there are 4 important learnings, okay, a pencil will teach us. Number 1 is in whose hand that pencil is. Okay. Number 2 is what is inside the pencil. So obviously we know it's a lead. Third aspect is it can be sharpened on a regular basis to perform better. Right? Once it becomes blunt, you keep sharpening. That's a third activity. And fourth is, if there are mistakes, there is a rubber at the end which can be used to remove or nullify the issues, or rub the entire mistake which is there. Now, for all these 4 to happen, okay, this actually resembles a life. In whose hand it is, what is inside us, is Swami says everything is a reflection of inner being. Okay, what is inside us will be seen outside. We need to keep sharpening ourselves regularly to perform better in life. Okay, sharpening our skills, taking introspection and trying to sharpen our thoughts, having the right aspects, right karmas to be done. So we have to keep self introspection. That is how we keep sharpening on a regular basis to perform better. Worldly level, we keep educating ourselves, taking new degrees and courses and try whatever, every aspect of life we have to keep sharpening ourselves. Fourth one is, there are mistakes, there is still an opportunity for us to rectify. It's a different issue if we are not vigilant enough and we don't correct our mistakes, then we have to go through those karmas. But there is an opportunity, and that's why God says, I'm giving you discrimination power, which is like a rubber which will help us to decide and change or modify or immediately correct our mistakes which are there in life. But the moot point is, number one, in whose hand it is. Okay, give a thought. Just give a thought. In whose hand it is, this pencil. Okay, the entire topic of surrender is, instead of worrying of all these 4 steps in our life, just give that pencil to God. Okay, just give the pencil to God. So what does God do? Obviously, first step is done. Again, take 1 step, I'll take 10. So first step is, God, here I give my pencil to you. I am your pencil. So second step, what he does, he brings out the best in us, which is what is inside of it. He brings out the best. Okay, which is where all the hardships and all the steps we discussed. Okay, it's actually culmination of all the 7 steps we discussed. So he brings out the best by giving us by giving us some, good chocolates or more chocolates, so makes it more interesting and all that. All that thing he does to mold us and brings the best in us. Third is, it can be sharpened regularly to perform better. Okay, at different times, he will give us the opportunity to sharpen ourselves, introspect in our life, also give us test to promote ourselves to the next level. Okay, so he keeps allowing us to be sharpened all the time, and different ways God comes. It's not that Swami has to come in an orange robe with a halo of hair, then only Swami has come. Swami in today's world, God in today's world comes in different ways. We have to be vigilant. That is where the sharpening happens. And finally, if there are mistakes occur, immediately alert. You have a rubber, modify it. That is the voice of conscience. Okay, that is the voice of conscience, which is of so by the time you are becoming so close to that iron, the filings, obviously they're able to hear the voice of conscience, that there is an opportunity for you to rectify yourself. Okay, and that's how we are able to use the rubber and immediately modify, rectify. And a time obviously comes before the error happens, he's alerting, you are getting into the wrong area. Be aware, be alert, which the Shastras and Vedas say, Tasma, Jagrata, 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 be aware. That awareness levels goes up so high because you're so close to God. That rubber also at times is not required. Only rare cases, if you do mistakes, you require that. But most important point is, let's give a pencil to Bhagawan. Rest of the life is taken care of. We don't have to do anything, and that's the only one and the only step. God, here I am at your lotus feet. I'm interested in you. Rest. All these steps that we spoke about, hunger in God, and this, that is all given by him. He brings different people in our life to develop that hunger. He brings different things in life to develop that satsang. Only thing we need to do is, God, I'm interested in you. That's about it. I want you and you alone. Rest, you take care. You do whatever you want. I have nothing else to speak about. Nothing else to do effort. It's your life. And that is how the journey of surrender is. It's absolutely blissful, brilliant, nectarine, enjoyable. And I can keep adding adjectives to it, but it's beyond our comprehension. It is just that sit back, relax, and enjoy once he is a Sanatana Sarthi. The way Arjuna was protected by Krishna throughout, he takes care of everything. So that's some of the experiences, thoughts, ideas, or whatever message, it's all coming from him, because his iron filing has nothing in it. It's a Pokal iron filing. The magnet is here. The magnet said, go and Cheppu, speak about all this. And so it is. So let's offer this session to Bhagawan, and let's offer our gratitude to him, because it is his doing. He has blessed us with the opportunity to think about him, his message, and on such an important day of friendship. Let's build that deep connect and friendship with him. He is the best friend that we have got, nobody else. Sairam.
Sairam, dear Brother Siddharth. We are really speechless. I am especially absolutely speechless, because the way you have lucidly explained the steps towards surrender as a very structured process, but ultimately the final piece of advice that you surrender the pencil to God, and then it automatically takes care of all the 7 steps, was a wonderful revelation. You know, you started with a beautiful note about that episode of child asking. He's not asking for chocolates. He's not wanting to take himself. He's allowing the shopkeeper to give, because it's futile to ask God something. He knows what is best for you, and he will give always. आपका झोली ज्यादा भर के ही देगा वो, अगर आप कोई expectations ना रखे or leave it completely. Beautiful beginning to this entire narration of the satsang on surrender. And what a way to even build the topic. Satsang, what does it bring? Interest and affection in God as a first step towards surrender. How can really it be achieved? Through satsangs, and definitely with satsangs with a person like you, which brings a wonderful insight. It was really amazing. What you said really stuck to my mind about the bow and arrow. How far you pull the string of love towards God will determine how close you get to God. It's absolutely fantastic. Second step, very nicely explained. Give first priority to God, and the entrance test, miracle, and Om Sairam, Om Sairam, Om Sairam. It's amazing, absolutely amazing, out of the world experience. Yes, if you are choosing God as number 1 priority, then He makes you the first priority. And that is exactly what happened in your life when you wanted to get into His college. Third is that develop that appetite, hunger for God. And then reaching God will automatically happen. Very nicely put. And that pining, that craving for God. And you beautifully brought, we were very fortunate to witness God in physical form, but you talked about all those great souls who did not have God in present, but their pining alone led them to darshan of Bhagawan and merging with them. Like Sant Jnaneshwar, Tukaram, you narrated, very nicely put. Fourth is that building the relationship with God, which is a permanent relationship of faith and love. And then he says, I am always with you. And for that, you have to dream. Absolutely. So nicely put. Surrender. Wow. That pun, sir, under to me. Superb. Out of the world. I think I will never forget it in my life. एकदम जो बोलते झकास बोलते ना, इस तरह से अंदर घुस गया वो. That Sanatana Sarthi on table. In fact, really रोंगटे खड़े हो गए, because unimaginable. That really emphasizes that when you completely surrender to Him, then He takes that position of eternal charioteer, Sarthi, very nicely put out. And again, blessings from Prashant Inlem on the first day in office. Oh my goodness. That's only because that's the kind of pining, that love that you have generated towards God. And then He becomes a friend in every need. Constant communion, the friendship, that is the 5th step, Sneham, Sakhyam, whatever you call it. And then the 6th step, realization that everything happens by His will. Normally, that is the way that we understand, surrender, is that, okay, surrender everything, good and bad to Him, equanimity. But once you look at the sequence of events, this step would automatically happen if you follow those steps. And finally, surrender happens. You don't expect that you surrender. That is unconditional, absolutely. Then it happens. Because He and you are same. Very nicely you brought that Advaita philosophy. You and me are not different. Swami always used to say that I know I am God. You don't know you are God. So you remove that I part of it, and then the entire thing merges together. Very nicely put, Siddhart. No words. The experiences post Samadhi were absolutely scintillating. And I was really crying when you said everything happens by His will and surrender happens, because I think we have experienced in our lives also. Nothing is in your hands. Once you surrender to Him, He takes over. That's what, and He fondles you like a baby. That's what happens. So thank you so much, Siddhart, for wonderful satsang. And I'm sure, in fact, you have a bundle of things to offer to all of us. So I would rather say this is Siddharth Bhatt part 1. And then there will be many more satsangs to come from you, of course, time willing, because you are also a very, very busy person. But thank you so much on behalf of Shri Sathya Sai Seva Samiti, Navi Mumbai District, and all the, our district president, Chinuri ji, and joint district president, Vinay Mehrotra. We offer gratitude to you for accepting this invitation. And again, it's a kind of a shot which will really carry us for a long time. Thank you so much. We'll end the satsang with online aarti to Bhagawan.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Just one thing, apologies for taking extra 10 minutes. I didn't plan that way, but I think it exceeded by 10 minutes. So sorry to keep everybody waiting for that.
In fact, that's why, I never raised my finger to point out, because I was so engrossed, So flow, don't resist. That's it. Thank you so much once again.
Sure. Sairam.
Sairam.
Shri Narayana tu Purushottama Guru tu Siddha Buddha tu Skanda Vinayaka Savita Pavaka tu Savita Pavaka tu Brahma tu Yahava Shakti tu Yeshu Pita Prabhu tu Rudra Vishnu tu Rama Krishna tu Rahimata tu Rahimata tu Vasudeva tu Vishwarupa tu Chidananda Hari tu Advitiya tu Akala Nirbhaya Atmalinga Shiva tu Atmalinga Shiva tu Atmalinga Shiva tu जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आवतान्धवा ओम नारायण नारायण ॐ जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण 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 सत्य नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण नारायण ॐ जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण 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 सत्य नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण नारायण ॐ जय सद्गुरुदेवा शान्ति 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 समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय
परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थइष्टार्थमोक्षप्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थइष्टार्थमोक्षप्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थइष्टार्थमोक्षप्रदानं बाबा विभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि
Om Shri Sairam. Requesting everyone to please turn on their videos, if it's okay, so that we can just take a snap. Requesting all to please turn on the videos if possible. Sairam. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again, Siddhart ji. Om Shri Sairam.
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 Sairam.